The music at the governor's grand garden party throbbed softly in the background. Crystal chandeliers hung from white canopies. Laughter floated through the warm evening air. Wealthy guests in designer suits and glittering gowns sipped champagne beneath glowing fairy lights. And right in the middle of all that luxury, a 14-year-old black girl stood barefoot on the marble walkway, shaking. Her dress was old, faded, slightly torn at the hem. It clung awkwardly to her thin frame as she clutched a small paper invitation in her trembling hand. Her eyes were wide with fear. Her name was Naomi Carter, and in front of her stood a uniformed police officer, 6 feet tall, built like stone, face twisted with cruelty. He snatched the invitation from her hand and laughed, loudly. "You really expect me to believe this is real?" the cop barked. His laughter echoed across the party. Heads turned. Voices fell quiet. Phones subtly lifted. Naomi's throat tightened. Her lips quivered. I was told to come here," she whispered. Someone said my father would be here." Her voice cracked on the word father. The cop leaned down until his shadow swallowed her completely. "Your father," he sneered. "Girl, the only thing your father ever gave you was poverty." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "I just want to go in," she whispered. "Please." The officer shoved her backward. She nearly fell. "Back up." "You don't belong here." Naomi stumbled, her shoes scraping helplessly against the marble. Her chest heaved, panic overtaking her tiny body. "I'm not stealing," she cried. "I swear I just—" "Oh, you don't even sound like you belong in this zip code," the cop laughed. "This is a party for important people, not beggars." A woman in a diamond gown turned her face away. A wealthy businessman lowered his gaze. A group of teens watched silently, unsure whether to laugh or feel ashamed. No one stepped in. No one defended her. Naomi grabbed her arms, hugging herself as the humiliation crushed her soul. "I didn't mean to cause trouble," she whispered. "I was invited," the cop lifted his radio dramatically. "We've got a suspicious individual trespassing at the governor's private event. Possible theft attempt. Black hoodie earlier reported near the parking lot." Naomi froze in terror. "That's not me," she cried. "I don't even have a hoodie." The officer stepped closer, towering over her. "I can take you straight to juvie right now." Her knees buckled, tears streamed down her face. "I just wanted to see him," she sobbed. "Just once," the cop's voice turned mocking. "CWHO, your drug-dealing daddy?" The cruelty of the words ripped through her like broken glass. Naomi let out a soft, broken scream. The crowd stood frozen. Not one person helped. Then a deep, powerful voice cut through the silence. "Officer, step away from the girl." Every head snapped toward the sound. A man in a perfectly tailored navy suit walked slowly out of the crowd. His silver hair was neatly groomed. His eyes were calm but dangerous. The cop turned, annoyed. "This doesn't concern you, sir." "Oh, it concerns me very deeply," the man said quietly. The cop scoffed and pointed at Naomi. "She snuck in, fake invitation, probably scouting valuables." The man's gaze dropped to Naomi. Her face was soaked with tears. Her shoulders trembled. Fear had wrapped around her like chains. "Did you snatch anything?" the man asked gently. She shook her head violently. "No, sir, I swear I don't want anything. I just wanted to see him." The officer laughed again. "You hear that? She wants to see him. What a fairy tale." The man slowly straightened. "You will lower your voice," the cop glared. "Or what?" The man took one step closer. "Or this moment will define the rest of your life." The cop burst into louder laughter. "What are you?" "Her lawyer." The man paused. His eyes darkened. "No," he said, "I am her father." A dead silence smashed into the party. Naomi looked up sharply. "What?" The cop stiffened. "You think you're funny?" The man reached inside his suit jacket. The cop's hand flew to his weapon. "Don't move." The man calmly pulled out his phone and pressed one button. Seconds later, sirens echoed faintly in the distance. The officer's laughter faltered. "You better explain yourself." The man leaned in. "I am Governor William Lancaster." Color drained from the cop's face. Naomi's breath caught. The man looked at the officer coldly. "And the girl you just humiliated in front of half the state's leadership?" His voice sharpened. "Is my daughter." The cop staggered backward. His legs visibly shook. He opened his mouth to speak, and wetness suddenly darkened his uniform. A sharp, horrified gasp spread through the crowd. The cop had lost control of his bladder. Naomi stared at him in stunned silence. The governor's voice dropped to a near whisper. "You will never wear that badge again." Security swarmed in. The crowd erupted. And Naomi stood frozen at the center of it all, still unsure whether this was a dream or a nightmare. But as the governor wrapped his jacket gently around her trembling shoulders, a question burned in every mind. Who was this girl really? And how had she ended up here alone, humiliated, and desperate for a father? But to understand how a poor black girl became the daughter of the most powerful man in the state, and how she ended up shaking in front of a cruel police officer at a governor's party, we must go back to the early morning of that very same day, to a crumbling house at the edge of the city, to a girl with a broken heart, and a secret that would change everything. The sun had barely risen when Naomi Carter opened her eyes. The ceiling above her was cracked, stained by years of rainwater leaks that nobody ever came to fix. A single fan creaked weakly in the corner of the room, pushing warm air that never truly cooled anything. The thin mattress beneath her had lost most of its stuffing years ago. And yet, Naomi never complained. She quietly sat up, careful not to wake her little brother, Eli, who lay curled beside her like a tiny kitten. His ribs showed faintly under his oversized T-shirt. His breathing was uneven, too uneven. Naomi reached out and gently placed her palm on his forehead, burning. Her heart tightened. "Not again," she whispered. She slid off the mattress and tiptoed out of the room. The small house was silent. No television, no fridge humming, no sound of running water, just the soft groan of old wooden walls. In the next room, her mother lay on a sofa that sagged in the middle like it was exhausted from holding pain. Her mother, Ruth Carter, was still asleep, but even in sleep, pain twisted her face. Naomi approached slowly. "Mom," she whispered. Ruth stirred weakly. "Sweetheart." Naomi knelt beside her. "Eli's burning up again," Naomi said, her voice trembling. "His fever's worse than yesterday." Ruth struggled to sit up, wincing. "We don't have any more medicine," she said hoarsely. "The free clinic won't give more until next week." Naomi swallowed hard. "I can go to the pharmacy again." "I'll beg if I have to." Ruth reached for her hand. "Naomi, you already work too much for your age." Naomi forced a soft smile. "I don't mind, Mama. I like helping." That was a lie. She minded very much. But she loved her family more than she feared exhaustion. Naomi wasn't supposed to be the provider. She wasn't supposed to skip school. She wasn't supposed to carry grocery bags heavier than her own body. She wasn't supposed to know how to negotiate food prices at 14. But life had assigned her responsibilities far older than her years. Her father had vanished before she turned 6. No goodbye, no explanation. Only a rumor whispered around the neighborhood. Her daddy left when he found out she wasn't his. People loved rumors more than truth. Ruth never spoke of him. Some nights Naomi heard her cry silently. And some nights Naomi stood outside her mother's door crying too. Because despite everything, Naomi still dreamed of her father. She dreamed that maybe, just maybe, he wouldn't abandon her forever, that maybe he didn't even know she existed. That fantasy lived quietly inside her heart like a fragile candle. But today, fantasy didn't matter. Eli's fever did. Naomi grabbed her worn-out backpack from the floor and rushed outside. The neighborhood was already alive, sirens in the distance. Buses rattling past cracked sidewalks. Old men arguing over spilled coffee. Kids in torn shoes chasing a flat soccer ball. Naomi headed straight to the laundromat. By 7 a.m., she was already working, washing, drying, folding strangers' clothes for a few dollars at a time. By noon, her fingers were pruned, her back ached, and the promised wages had turned into excuses. "Come back tomorrow," the manager said. "Business is slow." Tomorrow never fed Eli today. Naomi walked for miles after that, asking for work, cleaning porches, sweeping storefronts, carrying boxes. Most people ignored her. Some pitied her. Some treated her like she didn't exist. Until finally, an elderly woman outside a beauty salon pressed $5 into her hand. "For your kindness," the woman said. Naomi nearly cried. By late afternoon, she stood outside the pharmacy. $5 wasn't enough. The medicine cost 26. She walked inside anyway. The pharmacist shook his head before she even spoke. "I'm sorry, kid." Naomi's chest caved inward. "Please, my brother's really sick," the man sighed. "I could lose my license." She nodded silently and walked back out. That was when she heard it. "Naomi Carter?" She froze. The voice came from a sharply dressed man leaning against a black luxury car. "Yes," the man studied her face. "You look just like your mother." Her heart jolted. "Who are you?" The man extended an envelope. "I was told to give you this only today." Naomi hesitated, then took it. Inside was an invitation card, heavy paper, gold trim, embossed seal. "Governor's Garden reception by personal invitation." Her hands shook. "That's not possible," she whispered. "We don't know anyone like that." The man shrugged. "Told you'd say that." He paused. "Also told to tell you this." He leaned closer. "If you ever wanted to know the truth about your father, he'll be there tonight." Naomi's breath stopped. "My father," the man was already stepping back. 6 p.m. sharp. The car door closed. The vehicle vanished down the street. Naomi stood frozen in the heat. Heart pounding, mind spinning. Father, that word echoed through her soul like thunder. She ran home, burst through the door. Mama, she cried. Ruth stared in shock as Naomi handed her the invitation. Ruth's face turned white. No, 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 her hands trembled. He finally did it, Ruth whispered. Did what? Naomi demanded. Ruth looked at her with sorrow and fear. He's calling you into his world, Naomi's voice shook. Tell me who he is. Ruth shook her head. No, not yet. Naomi grabbed her arms. Mama, Eli is dying. We need help. And this man, my father, whoever he is, he might be our only chance. Tears filled Ruth's eyes. He is powerful, Naomi. Then why did he abandon us? Naomi cried. Ruth hesitated, then whispered, he didn't abandon you. I ran. Naomi froze. Why? Ruth's lips trembled. Because loving him nearly destroyed me. Silence filled the room. Naomi looked down at the golden card. Tonight, 6 p.m., a governor. And the father she had dreamed about for 8 painful years. She clenched the invitation tightly. If he really is my father, her voice hardened with quiet fire, then today he will finally look me in the eyes. 6 p.m. arrived faster than Naomi expected. The sun dipped low, turning the sky orange and red as Naomi stood in front of the small, cracked mirror in her room. She smoothed the only dress she owned that didn't have holes in it. Ruth had washed it twice that afternoon, scrubbing until her hands went red. You look beautiful, Ruth whispered, though her eyes were full of worry. Naomi didn't feel beautiful. She felt small, fragile, terrified. She slipped on her worn shoes and stared down at the golden invitation in her trembling hands. What if they laugh at me? Naomi whispered. Ruth cupped her face. Then you hold your head high and remember who you are, Naomi swallowed. And if he doesn't want to see me? Ruth looked away. Then we face that pain together. Naomi nodded and stepped outside. The city bus ride felt longer than usual. Each stop pulled her closer to a world she had only seen on television. Tall iron gates, manicured lawns, fountains glowing under white lights, uniformed guards, valet drivers, luxury cars lined up like polished jewels. Her heart hammered so fiercely she thought it might break her ribs. She approached the gate slowly, her shoes dusty against the spotless pavement. Laughter drifted from inside. Music floated softly through the air. People dressed in diamonds and tailored suits moved past her as if she were invisible. Naomi held out the invitation with shaking fingers. I'm supposed to go inside, she said quietly. The guard barely glanced at her. You sure you're at the right place, kid? She nodded. My father told me to come. The guard snorted. Everybody here claims to know somebody. Handed her over to the uniformed police officer stationed near the entrance. And that is when everything went wrong. From the moment the cop laid eyes on her, his face twisted with instant contempt. He stared at her dress, her shoes, her skin. Let me see that invitation. His voice carried suspicion like poison. Naomi handed it over carefully. He studied it for 3 seconds before laughing. This is fake. It's not, she whispered. I promise. He tore it in half. The sound was sharp. Cruel, final, Naomi gasped. Please, that's all I have. You think you can waltz into a governor's reception looking like that? He snapped. You must think we're all idiots. Her throat tightened. I just want to talk to him, she said. My father. Stop saying that, the cop growled. You don't belong to anyone in there. A small crowd began to form. Wealthy guests paused with drinks in hand. Security murmured. Whispers trickled through the air. Naomi felt 100 eyes cut into her from every direction. The cop stepped closer. Who sent you? I don't know his name, she admitted. The officer's lip curled. So you admit you're lying? No, I ought to arrest you for trespassing, Naomi's voice broke. I didn't steal anything, I didn't touch anything. Tears welled in her eyes despite her trying to be strong. A woman in pearls folded her arms. Why is this even happening here? She muttered. Another man scoffed. She's probably trying to scam someone. Each word stabbed Naomi deeper. The cop lifted his radio and smirked. This will be fun, Naomi shook. Please don't take me to jail, she whispered. My mom is sick. My brother is burning up with fever. I just needed to see him for 1 minute. Her voice cracked completely. Somewhere in the crowd, someone laughed, soft, cruel. The cop shoved her backward again. You don't cross this gate. She stumbled, nearly fell again. Her hands scraped against the marble as she caught herself. No one moved, not one. Do you know what it feels like to be surrounded by people and still be completely alone? That is what Naomi felt, invisible, disposable, worthless. A small security guard murmured, maybe we should remove her quietly. The cop nodded eagerly. Good idea. Naomi's breathing turned frantic. She backed away, panic flooding her body. I'll leave, just don't take me away. Her heels slipped. She collapsed onto the marble floor, her palms burned, her dignity shattered. The laughter grew louder, the cop pointed at her. "Look at THAT, can't even stand right." Naomi pressed her face to the ground. Hot tears soaked into the stone beneath her. She had never felt so small, so powerless, so ashamed. "There you go," the officer continued. "This is what happens when you think you belong somewhere you don't." He leaned down close to her. His breath smelled of coffee and contempt. "You should have stayed in whatever alley you crawled out of." Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. She thought of Eli burning with fever. She thought of her mother crying quietly at night. She thought of the father she had dreamed about, and something in her finally broke. She pushed herself up on shaking arms. "I may be poor," she whispered through tears, "but I'm not trash." The officer laughed in her face. "To me, you are." He reached for her arm, and that was when the air changed. Suddenly, the music cut off. Laughter faded. A strange hush spread across the garden like a shadow. Slow, steady footsteps echoed against the marble. A voice, deep, measured, and cutting through the chaos, rose over the crowd. "Officer, remove your hand from the child." Naomi slowly lifted her swollen eyes. The crowd parted. A tall man stood there in a navy suit, his presence commanding without shouting. The officer turned irritably. "This is police business, sir, and I am ordering you to stand down." The cop scoffed. "You don't order me." The man took one step forward. Naomi felt something powerful shift in the air. "The next move you make," the man said quietly, "will decide your fate." The officer hesitated for the first time. Still, he smirked. "And who exactly are you supposed to be?" The man looked down at Naomi. Her tears streaked her face. Her body trembled violently. She looked utterly broken. The man removed his suit jacket slowly. He draped it gently over Naomi's shoulders. "You're safe now," he said softly. Her breath hitched, warmth replaced cold, hope flickered where despair had ruled. The cop burst out laughing. "This is ridiculous, now we've got a hero." The man turned back toward him slowly. "I asked you a question," the cop said. "Who are you?" The man's voice dropped into deadly calm. "You will address me with respect." The officer puffed his chest. "Or what?" The man stepped closer, close enough for only the cop to hear his next words, but loud enough for the entire state to soon remember. "I am the man who decides whether you ever wear that uniform again." The cop blinked, confused, uneasy. The crowd leaned forward. Naomi's heart pounded so violently she thought she might faint. The man reached into his suit jacket. The officer's hand shot to his weapon. "Don't move!" And at that moment, everything was about to change. Naomi pressed herself against the cold marble, trembling as the officer's shadow loomed like a dark storm ready to crush her completely. His hand hovered over her arm again. His lips twisted in that arrogant, cruel smile she would never forget. "You think this little stunt gets you anywhere?" he sneered. "You're nothing, a girl in rags pretending to be someone important. You're lucky I don't throw you out before the real adults even notice you." Naomi's throat tightened. She wanted to scream, to shout, to run, but her body refused. It trembled uncontrollably as humiliation wrapped itself around her like a heavy cloak. And then everything stopped. A hush fell over the party, sudden and absolute. The soft tinkling of the string quartet faded into nothing. Guests froze mid-sip, mid-laugh, mid-step. The air grew heavier, almost electric, and then she heard it, a deep, controlled voice, calm yet commanding, cutting through the oppressive tension. "Step away from the girl." The cop jerked his head, startled. Who said that?" The man emerged from the crowd. Every step he took radiated authority. Tall, with a dignified posture, silver hair catching the garden lights, his eyes steady and piercing. His navy suit was impeccable, his shoes polished to a mirror shine. And yet there was warmth in his gaze, not a condescending warmth, but a protective, steady one that instantly calmed Naomi. "You heard me," the man said, voice low and unwavering. "Step away." The officer laughed nervously. "And you are?" "Another parent claiming to control my actions." He flexed his hand as if preparing for confrontation. The man crouched slightly to meet Naomi's terrified gaze. He rested a hand lightly on her shoulder, and Naomi felt an unfamiliar sense of safety ripple through her body. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Naomi shook, barely able to speak. I don't, the officer, sensing his authority challenged, sneered. "She's lying, you don't know her, she doesn't belong here." The man straightened. His voice dropped into a chilling calm that cut through the officer's arrogance. "Try me." The officer blinked. Something inside him faltered. A small, almost imperceptible tremor ran down his spine. "Excuse me," he demanded. "I said," the man replied, each word deliberate, measured, and terrifying in its calmness. "Try me. Touch her again, and your career, your freedom, and your dignity are over. You will wish you had never put on that uniform." The officer's face twisted. He tried to laugh, but it was shaky now. His words faltered. You think a suit, a title, changes anything, he stammered. The man's eyes, steady and unyielding, locked onto his. I am not a suit, I am her father. Naomi froze, her heart slammed against her ribs. Father, she whispered, barely audible. The cop's eyes widened, his confidence began to crumble. Don't be ridiculous, the officer barked. Who are you even? The man straightened fully, his presence now dominating the entire garden. He smiled faintly, calm, almost imperceptible, but it was the kind of smile that made the entire crowd lean in, sensing authority and truth. My name, he said softly, is Governor William Lancaster, and the girl you have just humiliated is my daughter. The words fell like thunder. Naomi's breath caught in her throat. The world tilted. Her knees felt weak. Her heart raced so fast it threatened to burst. The officer's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. Nothing came out. The crowd gasped collectively. Glasses clinked nervously. A few gasped audibly, their hands flying to their mouths. The officer's face turned pale, and then impossibly he wet himself. The laughter that had once poured from him vanished instantly, replaced by horror and shame. Naomi couldn't help but stare. The world seemed to slow around her. Every single mocking word, every shove, every sneer, had vanished into an unbearable silence, leaving only the gravity of the revelation hanging over the cop. The governor stepped closer, his voice now soft but deadly serious. You will apologize, not just to me but to my daughter, and you will leave this party immediately. If I hear of your name in any professional capacity again, you will be stripped of every badge, every title, and every ounce of authority you think you own. The officer stammered incoherently. Security officers approached him from all sides. He tried to speak, tried to defend himself, but the governor's presence alone rendered him powerless. Naomi blinked. She had never felt so small and so protected at the same time. Her father, this powerful, kind man, had just appeared when she needed him most. The governor knelt down slightly, bringing himself to Naomi's level. His hands gently rested on her shoulders. Are you hurt? He asked quietly. Naomi shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I'm okay now, she whispered, her voice trembling. You are never alone again, the governor said firmly. I promise you that. Naomi's lips quivered. I didn't even know you, I thought, he smiled softly. You didn't need to know me to be my daughter, and you certainly didn't need to endure humiliation alone. That ends now. The crowd around them was silent. Some people stared in disbelief, others in awe. Whispers carried across the garden, and then came the final blow to the officer's ego, a blow that left him trembling. You, the governor said, pointing directly at him, just humiliated my daughter. In front of every single person at this event. Do you understand what that means? The cop shook, his face pale and sweating. You are fired, the governor said simply. Immediately, and I will personally ensure that no badge of authority is ever yours again. The officer dropped his head. His career, his pride, his sense of power, all gone in one moment. Naomi's chest heaved. Relief, disbelief, and joy all collided within her. She looked up at her father, eyes wide. Do you really mean it? She whispered. He knelt closer, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. I mean it with all my heart, he said. You are my daughter, and I have been searching for you all these years. Naomi's tears fell freely now. She threw her arms around him, clinging to him as if she would never let go. You don't understand. I thought he didn't want me, she whispered against his chest. I do understand, he murmured, holding her tightly. And that's why I'm here now. No one will ever treat you like that again. The guests around them remained in awe, some whispering, some dabbing their eyes. Cameras clicked, phones recorded. And yet Naomi only felt one thing, safety. The officer had been humiliated. Naomi had been saved, and a father she had dreamed about for 8 long years had finally stepped into her life. But even as the garden buzzed with stunned murmurs, one question lingered in Naomi's mind, a question that had haunted her for years. Why now? Why did it take so long for you to find me? The governor smiled gently, eyes softening. Because sometimes life tests our patience and sometimes it tests our courage. You have proven both. Naomi looked down at the torn invitation, now crumpled in her hand. She laughed softly through her tears, the sound fragile but full of relief. And now, the governor continued, you will never have to face this world alone again. And in that single moment, Naomi felt the weight of years lift off her shoulders. The cruel past, the relentless fear, the endless struggle, all of it dissolved under the warmth and protection of her father's love. For the first time in her life, she felt truly safe, truly seen, truly home. The officer who had tormented Naomi was escorted out of the governor's garden by a pair of firm security officers. His uniform clung to him uncomfortably, now soaked with the shame of his own disgrace. The crowd watched in stunned silence as he was led away, muttering half-hearted apologies that no one took seriously. He had been humiliated in front of the state's elite, stripped of authority, and now faced not only public condemnation but certain career ruin. No badge, no respect, no credibility. "Do you understand?" Governor Lancaster's voice carried effortlessly across the garden, calm but impossible to ignore. "You humiliated my daughter. Your actions will have consequences beyond what you can imagine. And yes, legal action is already underway. You will answer for this." The cop tried to speak, his voice cracking, but Lancaster raised a hand. "Silence! Your time to talk is over. You will face the consequences for your prejudice and cruelty, and I promise you justice will be swift." The security officers guided him away, and Naomi watched, tears still streaming down her face. She felt a strange mixture of relief and empowerment. For the first time, she realized that cruelty did not go unpunished, that no matter how small or poor she had value. Her father knelt before her, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. "You don't have to be afraid anymore," he said softly. "You are safe, and I will make sure of it. No one will ever hurt you the way he did." Naomi blinked through her tears, her voice shaky. "But what about Mama and Eli? They don't have anyone here. They don't have money. He smiled warmly. "They have me now, and soon they won't have to worry about hunger, sickness, or shelter ever again. You've been brave, Naomi, and bravery deserves protection, care, and love." Ruth approached, her face etched with tears and disbelief. "William, you're really going to?" "Of course," he said. "They are family, and family takes care of each other." Naomi's mother's shoulders shook as she embraced her daughter. I can't believe this after all these years." "You believed in her," Governor Lancaster said, nodding toward Naomi. "She believed in herself even when the world did not. That is why she deserves everything that's coming." He turned back to Naomi. "Tell me exactly what she needs," he said, looking at Ruth. "Every meal, every doctor visit, every school supply, nothing will be withheld. Do you understand?" "Yes," Naomi said, voice trembling. "Everything for Eli, for Mama, and for me." "Everything," the governor confirmed. "And beyond that, we will ensure your education, your health, and your future. You will not just survive, you will thrive. You've earned it." Naomi felt her throat tighten as her father's words sank in. For years, she had worried about tomorrow, about what would happen if she couldn't find medicine for Eli or food for herself. And now, someone powerful and kind was ensuring that not only would tomorrow be safe, but the day after and the day after that. I don't know what to say," Naomi whispered. "You don't have to say anything," he replied softly. "Just trust me, that's enough for now." He took her small hands into his, gripping them gently but firmly. "You are brave, Naomi. You stood your ground. You faced cruelty and fear without losing yourself. That is more than enough to earn my protection and my love." Naomi's tears fell freely, hot and cleansing. I just want my family to be safe. I just wanted Eli to live, Mama to be healthy, and I wanted my father." "You have me now," he said firmly, holding her hands to his chest. "And you will never feel alone again, not in this house, not in this city, not in this life." Ruth wiped her eyes, stepping closer. How can we ever repay you?" Governor Lancaster shook his head. "You don't need to repay me. Seeing Naomi safe and happy is enough. Everything else is just part of what a parent does." Naomi looked up at him, awe and disbelief in her eyes. "Parent, you really mean that? You're really my dad." He smiled softly, warmth radiating in his gaze. "I've searched for you for years, Naomi, and now that I've found you, I promise I will never let you go. You are my daughter, and my responsibility is to you and your family." Her mother stepped closer, tears streaming freely. "William, we thank you. We never imagined after all these years." "You've imagined enough," he said gently. "Now it's time to live. From today onward, fear is optional, not mandatory. Hunger is optional, not mandatory. Pain is optional, not mandatory. And loneliness, that ends today." Naomi felt a shiver run through her body. She had never imagined life could feel this way. The warmth, the protection, the love, it was almost too much to believe, yet the sincerity in her father's eyes left no doubt. He turned toward the crowd. "As for everyone here, let Naomi's experience be a lesson. Cruelty has consequences, and compassion should guide your actions. Humiliation and prejudice do not go unnoticed. They will be met with justice." Some guests nodded, some murmured in agreement. A few looked ashamed, realizing they had silently stood by while Naomi had been mocked. Then he returned his attention to Naomi. "You will start school in the best academy in the city. You will receive tutoring, support, and every opportunity to excel. Eli will have doctors and care. Your mother will have rest, security, and assistance. You are my daughter, and I take full responsibility for your lives." Naomi shook her head, overwhelmed. I don't even know what to say, I feel safe. You don't need to say anything, her father said, voice soft but commanding. Actions will speak from now on. You will see, you will grow, and you will never want for anything, ever. Her mother held Naomi tightly, and Naomi clung to both her parents, a wave of relief and love washing over her. And about the man who hurt you, Lancaster said, turning his gaze back toward the garden's edge where security had restrained the officer. He will face the full measure of justice, public humiliation, legal action, loss of career. He humiliated my daughter. That is unforgivable. Naomi felt a warmth of satisfaction she had never known before. The same man who had terrorized her, laughed at her, and made her feel invisible now faced his reckoning, and it had come swiftly. Yes, she whispered, barely audible. He should never get away with it. The governor smiled warmly at her. Justice has been served. Redemption belongs to those who deserve it, Naomi. And now your redemption, your life, your family's security, all of it begins today. For the first time, Naomi felt the weight of fear lift from her shoulders. She wasn't powerless anymore. She wasn't alone. And she finally understood that her courage, her hope, and her heart had led to this moment of triumph. And as the governor embraced her once more, she realized something profound. Power, wealth, and influence could not compare to love, protection, and family. She had finally found all three. Years had passed since that fateful evening at the governor's garden. Naomi Carter walked down a wide, sunlit avenue in the heart of the city. Her posture was confident, her steps steady. Gone were the torn dress, worn shoes, and fearful eyes of the young girl who had once clutched a crumpled invitation, hoping against hope to meet a father she barely knew. In her place stood a young woman of poise and grace, wearing a tailored suit that matched her newly found dignity. Her hair was neatly braided, her eyes sparkled with intelligence and determination, and a smile, warm, genuine, and unstoppable, played across her lips. Beside her, holding her hand, was Eli, now healthy, full of life, and laughing at some small joke she had just whispered. Ruth, her mother, walked alongside them, her shoulders straight, her eyes clear of the constant worry that had haunted her for so long. Naomi paused at a crosswalk, looking at the city's skyline that stretched toward the heavens. The streets were alive with people, cars, and the hum of life. And for the first time in her life, Naomi felt not just safe, but free. Can you believe how far we've come? Naomi said, glancing at her family. From that little apartment, from nothing to this. Ruth squeezed her hand, her eyes glistening. It's more than I ever dreamed possible. You've made it, Naomi. We've made it. Eli, bouncing slightly on his heels, looked at his sister with admiration. I still can't believe someone like him, your dad, found us. Naomi smiled. Yeah, I couldn't either, but he did, and he didn't just find us. He gave us everything we needed to live a real life. She paused, letting the words settle. The memories of the garden, the fear, the humiliation, the officer's cruel laughter flickered across her mind. But they no longer weighed her down. They were a part of her past, a reminder of what she had overcome. Her phone buzzed, a message from Governor Lancaster. Dinner tonight. Want to celebrate your acceptance into the university program. Naomi grinned. Looks like Dad is never going to let me forget he's proud of me. Ruth laughed softly. Let him, you deserve it, Naomi, every bit of it. Naomi nodded. I never want to forget how alone we were and how much courage it took to keep going. Eli tugged at her hand. Come on, Naomi, don't talk so much. We're supposed to enjoy today. She laughed, a sound bright and unburdened, the kind of laughter she hadn't known in years. She looked up at the towering buildings and felt the pulse of opportunity in the city, in life itself. And then she saw him, Governor William Lancaster, her father, walking toward them. His presence was calm, strong, yet warm. Naomi ran to him, Eli close behind and Ruth following. Look at you all, he said softly, kneeling to hug Naomi. You've grown into someone extraordinary. Naomi hugged him tightly. I wouldn't have done it without you, she whispered. No, he said, stroking her hair. You did this yourself. I just gave you the chance. You earned everything by being brave, by being true to yourself. The moment stretched, filled with unspoken love, pride, and gratitude. The years of struggle, fear, and doubt melted away. Naomi felt lighter than she had ever felt in her life. Later that evening, Naomi attended her first formal event as a young adult, walking confidently beside her father and family. Guests whispered in admiration as they watched the girl who had once been humiliated now stand tall, educated, and radiant. Governor Lancaster leaned close and whispered, Do you remember the garden party? Naomi smiled faintly. I'll never forget it. The fear, the humiliation, and then the moment you appeared, the moment my life changed forever. He nodded. I promised you back then no one would ever hurt you the way he did, and I've kept that promise." Naomi glanced around at the gathered crowd. People she had never known, some in suits, some in dresses, all amazed at her presence, and thought of the officer, the cruelty, the fear that had once seemed endless. She shook her head softly. "It's incredible how quickly life can change. One moment you're afraid, and the next everything is different." Her father smiled. "That's why courage matters, Naomi. Even in the darkest moments, even when it seems impossible, hope and bravery can change your life forever." Naomi's eyes sparkled with newfound wisdom. "I think I finally understand that now. Fear can't control me, and neither can cruelty." Eli tugged at her hand again, pointing at the dessert table. "Come on, Naomi, chocolate cake." She laughed, letting go of the past completely. For the first time, she truly felt that she belonged, not just at the table, not just in the city, but in the world. The moral of the story: Naomi's journey from a frightened, humiliated girl to a confident, educated, and loved young woman holds a clear lesson. Humanity transcends race, wealth, and status. True power lies not in cruelty, but in compassion, protection, and kindness. A single act of courage can change a life. Naomi faced fear and humiliation with bravery, and it led to her ultimate redemption. Family and love are priceless. The presence of a parent, a protector, or a mentor can transform despair into hope and suffering into success. From the cracked ceilings of a poverty-stricken apartment to the glittering halls of success and security, Naomi's story reminds us all. No matter how dark the past, courage, hope, and love can illuminate a future brighter than anything we ever imagined. Naomi laughed freely now, surrounded by her family and the life she had always dreamed of. She looked back on the past, not with regret but with gratitude, because it had taught her the strength of her spirit, the power of love, and the truth that no one, not even cruelty itself, could take away her worth. And in that moment, standing in the glow of chandeliers and city lights, Naomi Carter truly knew she had arrived, not just in the governor's world, but in her own life. A life of hope, courage, and endless possibilities.